Okay, I'm going to get started this morning by welcoming all of you guys. Welcome to Wat Tung Yu, Sawadee Kap, Sawadee Kap. Welcome to everyone here. Welcome to everyone who's joining us online as well. Today is our Pali Canon in English study group where we study the original words of the Buddha in order to help you to understand what it takes to be able to get to the enlightened mental state. The Buddha taught us how to be able to get to this enlightened mental state where the mind's peaceful, calm, serene, and content with joy. It no longer experiences any discontent feelings. So by the time you train your mind to get to enlightenment, you've eliminated all the anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are completely eliminated from the mind. And that starts with meditation. There's other training that you need, but our class here, we start with meditation in order to help you guys to be able to train your mind. But there's more than just meditation that you would need in order to make your way to enlightenment. So that's why in this particular program, we study the original words of the Buddha to help you guys to understand how to move your mind to enlightenment. But we'll talk more about what the Pali Canon in English study group is later. For now, we'll just focus on starting our meditation and guiding you guys in a meditation session. So if you'd like to join for meditation, the way that we start is with these chants. I see some of you guys have the chants. You can get the chants over there on the table if you'd like to get access to those, because you're welcome to chant along as we're chanting. During the lifetime of the Buddha, chanting was used as a way to commit the teachings to memory. There's nothing mystical or magical here with these chants. It's not a rite or ritual or a ceremony or worship or prayer or anything like that. The way that we use chanting nowadays is to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. Because we have books and audiobooks and videos, podcasts, things like this to be able to capture the teachings. So we don't need to chant in order to remember the teachings. We can commit them to memory through other learning resources. But we still chant in order to ease the mind into meditation and get more benefit out of the meditation itself. If you look at these chants, you're going to see a lot of respect and gratitude and appreciation for the Buddha. And because of that, I suspect that these were created by his students, either during his life or after his death, because a Buddha wouldn't walk around handing out chants and saying, here, chant this to me out of respect for me. But if you learn from a teacher of how to move from the anger and the sadness and the frustration and all these other discontent feelings to the peace and joy, and this is a permanent mental state, and this teacher didn't want anything from you or expect anything from you, you'd probably have a lot of appreciation, gratitude, and respect for that person too. So I think that his students probably created these either during his life or after his death, because the Buddha wouldn't have created these and asked his students to be able to chant these. He only used chanting as a way to commit the teachings to memory during his lifetime, because everything he taught was oral and they didn't have a way to be able to remember them other than to recite them verbally every 2 weeks. So if you'd like to chant along, you're more than welcome to. You're going to hear me chanting as I ease into the meditation. And there's other programs and courses where I teach the chanting to be able to help you guys to understand how to actually do the chanting. But here in this class, we just chant as we ease into meditation. Once we're in the meditation, you're going to hear me providing some guidance to be able to help you in your meditation, learning how to meditate and actually be meditating at the same time. But then there's going to be a period of time where it's just quiet. We're just all meditating together. Everyone here at the temple, people joining us online, we'll all just be meditating at the same time. And I'm sure you might hear occasional sounds because it's not possible to be in an environment where it's permanently quiet. You're going to hear occasional sounds. So as long as your mind isn't craving permanence, then when that sound occurs, you won't experience annoyance or frustration or agitation or anything like that. After the meditation, we're going to come out of that with some more chanting. So if you'd like to chant along on the way out, you're welcome to do that as well. In terms of body positioning for your meditation, the Buddha taught 4 positions to meditate in because your body can't permanently be in exactly the same position. So I'm going to provide you some guidance on the seated position, but understand that there's multiple positions and there's multiple ways to do these positions. There's seated, lying, standing, and walking positions. But oftentimes people are learning in the seated position. So I'll provide you some guidance on this, but it's all about you finding what's comfortable for you. So what I share with you are just options that could potentially help you to be able to experience more comfort in your seated position. You might be sitting on the floor in a chair. If you're at home, you might be on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair or something like this. You can really sit however you're comfortable. There isn't just one way to actually sit. But if you're on the floor, you might have some cushions under your rear. This will kind of soften your seat. And then you would like to lightly bring your legs together in a cross-leg position. If you had them real tight, this would cause the circulation to be inhibited, and it could cause pain in the lower body. So you're not interested in your legs being real tight. Some people like to put their legs off the mat. This gets the hips up in the air, and it lessens the angle at the hips, the knees, and the ankles. And again, it allows the circulation to flow. The hands and the arms, the Buddha put his right hand over his left with his thumbs together, and he put this into his lap. If this is comfortable for you, you could do that. But again, it's not about everyone doing it exactly the same way. There's multiple options here. Some people like to put their palms on their thighs or on their knees. Some people put their palms up. You might even find just resting your hands comfortably in your lap works good. So whatever you find that's comfortable, feel free to do that. And the same thing for anybody who's sitting in a chair or on a bench or a sofa or a wheelchair. You can sit however you're comfortable. Some options might be having your feet flat on the floor or lightly crossed at the ankles, but you can see me, I'm in a chair with my legs crossed, so this is an option too. There's many different options. And then the same thing with your hands and arms, just place them wherever you're comfortable. The upper body is nice if it's erect, with the sternum up and the shoulders back. It'll keep the mind attentive and alert during the meditation, because this is a dedicated, active, purposeful training session where you're eliminating certain unwholesome qualities from the mind and you're cultivating certain wholesome qualities in the mind. So you would like your mind to be attentive and alert during the meditation so you can eliminate the unwholesome qualities and cultivate the wholesome qualities in the mind. It also helps you to breathe in through the nose and out through the nose. So having your sternum up and shoulders back, it helps you with both of those things, keeping your mind attentive and alert, and it makes it easy for you to breathe. So if you'd like to join along in the chanting, I'm going to start with that, and then I'll come back in with the guidance. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Mahakawa Wat Tung Mahakawanang Apiwatemi Savakato Mahakawata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Mahakavato Sāvaka Saṅkho Saṅghang Namami Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Tassa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Mahakawa Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokawitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatawa Panusarang Oto Bhagavati. Okay, with the lower body and hands and arms comfortable, and the upper body erect, just close the eyes and start breathing in through the nose and out through the nose. Here you're just looking to establish the breath. A nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. Not forced or controlled. Just a gradual inhale through the nose, experiencing the full breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. Your breath may not match up with the guidance that I'm providing, and that's okay. This is your practice. I'm just here for guidance. You can use this voice as a reminder that whenever you get to the next inhale, breathing gradually through the nose, developing a nice, natural, steady, consistent breath. And then whenever you're ready, exhale out through the nose, experiencing the full breath. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the breath well established, start fixating the mind on the breath, either the sound of the breath coming into the nose or the sensation of air moving over the skin into the nose. The breath is the present moment. Fixate the mind on the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. With the mind fixated on the breath, whenever you notice that it moves off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. No need to observe the thought, label it, judge it, analyze it, or even try to figure out where it's coming from. Whenever you notice that the mind is moved off the breath, cut that off, let it go, and come back to the breath, the present moment. Breathing in and out. Breathing in and out. I'm going to be quiet now and let you do this work of focusing on the breath, cutting off and letting go anytime the mind moves off the breath. You have nowhere to go. There's nothing to do. No one needs you right now. This is your time to focus on the breath. Breathing in and out. Arahang Samma Sambuddho Bhagava Wat Tung Bhagavanang Abhivateyami Savakato Bhagavata Tammo Dhammang Namasami Supatipano Bhagavato Savaka Sangho Sanghang Namami Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Namo Rasa Bhagavato Arahato Samma Sambuddhassa Iti piso Bhagava Arahang Samma Sambuddho Vicacaranang Sammuno Sakato Rokavitu Anutero Purisa Dhamma Sati Satatava Manusanang Poto Bhagavati. Okay, if you guys would like to slowly make your way out of meditation. Once again, I'd like to welcome all of you guys, everybody here at the temple, everyone online. Welcome. Good morning. It's nice to see all of you guys here this morning. Today's class is our Pali Canon and English study group. I'm going to explain to you guys what that is here in a moment. But first, let me just share some things with you for those of you guys that are here maybe for the first time. If you're here for the first time, some things to help you feel even more comfortable is that in the back of the room, there's 2 bathrooms. Feel free to use those at any time. If you'd like to get up and use the restroom, feel free to do that. There's even restrooms outside the classroom. If you go out to the parking lot, you'll see signs that take you around to the main temple bathrooms. We even have snacks and refreshments and things like that over here that is provided by our students. So feel free to help yourself to anything that's over there in the refreshment area. So as I mentioned, today's class is the Pali Canon and English study group. And what we're doing is we have various courses and programs here that are helping students to understand how to make their way to enlightenment. What enlightenment is it's a mental state that the Buddha attained on his own without the help of any teachers or any guides. And then he shared those teachings for the rest of his life, helping people to understand what it takes to get to the same mental state. The enlightened mental state is where the mind is peaceful, it's calm, it's serene, it's content, it has joy. There's no discontentedness in the mind whatsoever. The mind has eliminated all of its anger, sadness, frustration, irritation, annoyance, guilt, shame, fear, stress, anxiety, loneliness, boredom, shyness, resentment, jealousy. All these feelings and others are eliminated from the mind because you've uprooted the causes and conditions that are producing them. You might firmly believe right now that other people are causing you to be angry, or that someone else is annoying you, or there's something external that is irritating you or frustrating you. But this is because of the mind's lack of wisdom. It's just believing this because your mind hasn't cultivated the wisdom to be able to see the truth. If you learn the teachings of the Buddha, and you independently verify them, and then you practice them to be able to see the truth for yourself, you'll be able to see that it's your own mind that's causing these feelings. And because your mind is causing all the anger and sadness and frustration, you can actually eliminate it. You don't have to go out into the world and convince other people to do things a certain way. You can actually train your own mind to awaken to enlightenment, where the mind has not only eliminated those discontent feelings, but you'll have focus and concentration and clarity and deep memory. You'll notice that your personal, professional relationships are really blossoming. They'll be at ease because you won't be bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships any longer. You won't even be in a bad mood anymore. The causes and conditions that are producing these things have been uprooted through training of the mind. So the teachings of the Buddha aren't about believing a bunch of things and then hoping something good happens when you die. It's also not about rites and rituals and ceremonies and worship or prayer or anything like this. If you're seeing any of those types of things associated with the teachings of the Buddha, those aren't the actual teachings of the Buddha. Those are things that people changed and modified in his teachings. But if you look at his original teachings, which is what we do here, you'll be able to see what it takes to move your mind to this enlightened mental state, and you can experience the mind moving to that mental state. Because as you're doing this, it's a gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress. One of the biggest myths about the life story of the Buddha is people think that he sat under a tree, he meditated, and then instantly got to enlightenment. This isn't actually true. And you can see this if you study his original words, and then you reflect on this through your own experience. It's gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that leads to enlightenment. And you can see that through your own experiences, because whether it's learning how to read or write any particular language, or whether it's learning how to walk even, it was gradual training, gradual practice, and gradual progress that led to any kind of improvements in your life. And that's essentially what the path to enlightenment is. It's a program of self-development and inner growth where you're essentially becoming a better and better human being. You're evolving, just like a snake or a lizard or another being might evolve and become a better and better species. Human beings can do the exact same thing. We can actually get to the point where we no longer experience the anger and the sadness and the frustration. But whether you choose to do that or not, it's a choice for you to decide. And if you would like help to learn how to do that, there's help for you here. All the resources that we share, all the help that we share, it's available to you at no cost. Whether it's classes, courses, or retreats, whether it's books or personal guidance, videos, podcasts, anything that you would like access to, it's available to you to be able to learn and grow and develop of how to get to this enlightened mental state so that you can get free of all these discontent feelings. So in this particular program, what we do is we study volumes 2 through 13 of our book series. We have other programs that we explore volumes 1. Volume 1 is titled Developing a Life Practice, the Path That Leads to Enlightenment. This is where students usually start in our foundational programs. There's a program that I teach on Sundays and Wednesdays that goes chapter by chapter in this book over a 7-month period. And then there's various courses that kind of consolidate it into smaller time frames. But over a period of time, you can learn gradually the teachings that it takes to be able to move the mind to enlightenment by developing a foundation. And this book would be the first place to start. You can get this by downloading it from our website for free. You can take it and go print it if you like. You can get printed versions here by just reimbursing us for our printing cost. Or if your country has access to Amazon, you can get it through Amazon. So this is the best place to start, is volume 1, because then you can gradually build up your practice and learn more and more about the foundational teachings and kind of building this framework to be able to help you understand the path to enlightenment. And then as students have studied those various foundational programs, they oftentimes will move into a program like this, the Pali Canon English Study Group, where they're studying the original words of the Buddha. And if this is your first time here, or you've never studied the teachings of the Buddha before, it's okay. You're still going to learn plenty today, but just understand that this isn't necessarily where somebody starts their journey to enlightenment. Because today what we're going to be doing is we're actually starting this particular book. We're starting volume 6, which is titled The Natural Law of Kamma. This is a natural law that the Buddha is helping you to be able to awaken to as part of your journey to enlightenment. When we talk about awakening to enlightenment, what you're doing is you're cultivating wisdom. You're cultivating wisdom about the natural laws of existence. The Buddha didn't teach rules and commandments that if everybody follows these, the world will become a better place. He didn't teach you the way the world should should be. What he does is he teaches you the way the world is. And by understanding the way the world is through these natural laws, you can then navigate the world more peacefully. When you're having struggles and difficulties in the world, like stress or anxiety, or your relationships are challenged, this is because your mind is not having certain wisdom that you need to navigate this world harmoniously with all beings. It's just that the mind lacks wisdom of these natural laws. But slowly but surely, you can gradually gain the wisdom to understand these natural laws, because these natural laws are affecting you, whether you're aware of it or not. Just like the natural law of gravity affects all of us, and when we were a little child, we had struggles and difficulties with this natural law, we gradually needed to awaken to that natural law. And as we did, we started making wiser and wiser choices that led to more and more wholesome results in our life. And when we didn't have wisdom of that natural law, we made unwise decisions that led to unwholesome results. So there's other natural laws besides this natural law of gravity. Because when we started making wise decisions about this natural law of gravity, we were able to climb ladders, ride bicycles, fly on airplanes. We're able to easily coexist in the world with this natural law. But when we lacked wisdom of it, we fell down, we hurt ourselves, we broke our toys, we had all kinds of difficulties. But when we gradually gained wisdom of this natural law, we then awoke to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity. Now you might say that you're fully awake to the wisdom of the natural law of gravity. But there's other natural laws, and these natural laws are affecting you whether you're aware of it or not. There's no being who's overseeing the natural law of Kamma. It's not about punishments and rewards. It's not about anything mystical or magical. Some people refer to this natural law as karma. You might have heard that word being used. That's the Sanskrit version of this word. It's a different language. The language of the original teachings of the Buddha is the Pali language. So in this language, the word Kamma is being used. So people who study the original words of the Buddha will tend to use the word Kamma. This is cause and effect, or action and result, the results of your decisions. That whenever you make decisions wisely, you're going to experience wholesome results, or wholesome Kamma. And when you make decisions unwisely, you're going to experience unwholesome results, or unwholesome Kamma. So what you're doing, among other things, on the path to enlightenment is you're awakening to the wisdom of this natural law of Kamma. And now, as you understand more and more about this cause and effect, or this action and results, now you can make wise decisions that is going to lead to wholesome results. So for example, if we were a child and we were walking down the beach and we were kicking up sand into the air and it was blowing back in our face, we learned pretty quickly, like, I don't like this. I'm not going to kick up sand anymore because it's blowing back in my face. We learn through our own experiences. So you can actually learn through this natural law of what is wise and what is unwise, so that you can make more and more wise decisions and experience more and more wholesome results in your life. What you're experiencing in your life, oftentimes people associate this with good luck or bad luck, or you might think of it as destiny or fate, or you might even be blaming other people for the things that you're experiencing in your day-to-day life. And as long as you do this, you're basically locked in. You can't solve it. Some people even think there's a being who's controlling the world, maybe like a supreme being that's controlling the world and controlling what you experience and what you don't experience. So as long as your mind is unawake to this natural law of Kamma, and you think that maybe it's good luck or bad luck what you're experiencing, or destiny or fate, or it's other people that are causing you to experience these things, or there's a supreme being that's controlling you, you're basically locked in and you can't do anything to change any aspect of your life. But when you come to understand the natural law of Kamma, it's very empowering, because what you understand is that anything you're experiencing in life is a result of the decisions that you're making. And when you see something in your life that you don't particularly care for, all you need to do is cultivate wisdom, make different decisions, and you will experience different results. But as long as somebody believes, and with belief you don't know what's true or false, then if you believe that it's destiny or fate or good luck or bad luck, or other people are causing you to experience certain things, or that there's a supreme being that's controlling you, you won't ever be able to change all the various aspects of your life that you need to change in order to create real improvement. So learning and understanding the natural law of Kamma is very very key to creating a more and more wonderful life, a satisfying and fulfilling life for yourself, because then you can see the certain decisions that you're making that are leading to certain unwholesome results in your life. And now you can cultivate wisdom and you can change those decisions. But if it's other people that are causing these things to occur in your life, then you're stuck. You can't do anything to change anything about your life. So the Buddha taught multiple natural laws, but the natural law of Kamma is a primary natural law that the Buddha taught in order to help you awaken to this enlightened mental state. So by the time you get to enlightenment, you'll only be experiencing wholesome results in your life. And one of those wholesome results is that you won't experience discontent feelings any longer. You will have purified the mind of the pollutions that the Buddha discovered in the mind. He discovered 10 individual pollutions, and then he gave you the tools and techniques of how to eliminate those and eradicate them from the mind. And as you're doing so, you'll be able to see the mind becoming more peaceful, more concentrated, more focused, more developed. Your relationships will improve, and you'll know that you're getting closer and closer to enlightenment, because you'll know in situations where you were once angry and sad and frustrated and having all these other discontent feelings, you'll be in those same exact situations and you won't be experiencing that anymore. You'll be experiencing nothing but peace or joy. So what we do in this particular program is we start with meditation like we just did, but then we move into actually studying the original words of the Buddha. Because we're starting a new book today, we're starting on chapter 1. And all the other programs that I teach in a more traditional style where I'm teaching for 10, 15, 20, 30 minutes, and then I open up for questions. And then I teach some more, and then I open up for questions. But what we do in this program, because students oftentimes already have a framework and foundation, it's more like a study group where I invite people here at the temple or anybody online in Zoom to be able to read a chapter. And these chapters, they're fairly short. Like you can see this one, it just goes right to here. It's basically like a page and a half. And somebody will read this. These are the original words of the Buddha. And then I will spend about 5 minutes or so teaching about this. And then I will open up to any and all questions that you guys have related to this particular chapter. And this is volume 6. So we're studying the natural law of Kamma here. But you could really say everything that the Buddha taught in one way or another is teaching you the natural law of Kamma. This particular book really highlights some very key and crucial aspects of this natural law, but you could look at all of his teachings, and in one way or another, they're coming back to this cause and effect, or this action and result, the results of your decisions. It's your life, it's your decisions, and it's your results. Everything you experience is a result of your decisions. And if you can't see that, you need to be able to learn, investigate, and examine, reflect, to independently verify, and practice to see the truth for yourself. Because you can ask yourself, who chose to sit where you're sitting right now? Who chose to wear the clothes that you're wearing? Who chose the hairstyle that you have? Who chose what you either ate or didn't eat this morning for breakfast? Who chose anything about your life? It's your choices that are leading to the individual results that you experience, and you can see that more and more clearly as you penetrate into this natural law. So this first chapter, I'm going to invite anybody here or anybody online through Zoom that would like to volunteer to read this. You can read it. And then afterwards, I'll teach on it. And then I'll open up to any questions that you guys have. If you would like to volunteer here at the temple to read, we have microphones here in front of the camera at the white bowl. If you could come get a microphone and just press the gray button, you'll see the lights come on, and just wait a second or so and put that up to your chin. We'll be able to hear you here at the temple, and they'll be able to hear you online. If you talk here without a microphone, they won't be able to hear you online. And then for those of you guys online, if you're in Zoom, you can volunteer to read by electronically raising your hand and then just unmuting your microphone, and we'll be able to hear you here at the temple. We'll be able to hear you online. And then when we get to the question period, if you have questions, again, here at the temple, if you could use the microphones, that would be great. And you can take these back to where you're sitting, because you might have more than one question, or someone around you might have a question. And those of you guys in Facebook, YouTube, or in Zoom, you can ask questions by putting that into the comment section. I'll be able to see that. Or those of you guys in Zoom, you can also electronically raise your hand for questions as well. Just let me know that you have a question, and then you can unmute your mic and ask any questions that you like. So does anybody have any interest in volunteering to read? Yeah, I saw Marcy's hand too. I was going to turn to Marcy, but I thought I'd open it up to everybody. So, okay. So it looks like, Marcy, you would like to read. Let me get my mouse there. Go ahead, ma'am. Oops. You had your hand up? Was that for reading or is that a question?
Yes, for reading, Teacher
Okay.
David. Thank you.
Yeah, go ahead, ma'am.
6 aspects of Kamma to be understood. Monks, when it was said, Kamma should be understood, the creation of Kamma should be understood, the diversity of Kamma should be understood, the result of Kamma should be understood, the elimination of the creation of Kamma should be understood, the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma should be understood. For what reason was this said? Its volition, choices, decision. Monks, that I call Kamma. For having willed, intentions, choices, decision, one acts by body, speech, or mind. And what is the creation of Kamma? Contact is the creation of Kamma. Contact is its creation. And what is the diversity of Kamma? There is Kamma to be experienced in hell. There is Kamma to be experienced in the animal realm. There is Kamma to be experienced in the realm of afflicted spirits. There is Kamma to be experienced in the human realm. And there is Kamma to be experienced in the heavenly realm. This is called diversity of Kamma. What is the result of Kamma? The result of Kamma, I say, is threefold. To be experienced in this very life, or in the next rebirth, or in some subsequent occasion. This is called the result of Kamma. And what, monks, is the elimination of the creation of Kamma? With the elimination of contact, there is elimination of the creation of Kamma. 6. The Noble Eightfold Path is the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma, namely, right view, right intention, right speech, right action, right livelihood, right effort, right mindfulness, and right concentration. Monks, a noble disciple thus understands Kamma, the creation of Kamma, the diversity of Kamma, the result of Kamma, the elimination of the creation of Kamma, and the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma. He understands this penetrative spiritual life to be the elimination of unwholesome Kamma. When it was said, Kamma should be understood, the creation of Kamma should be understood, the diversity of Kamma should be understood, the result of Kamma should be understood, the elimination of the creation of Kamma should be understood, the way leading to the elimination of unwholesome Kamma should be understood. It is because of this that this was said.
Okay, thank you, ma'am. So what we've got here in these books, volumes 2 through 13, is we've got the words of the Buddha. Then we've got a reference here. This reference takes you back to the original source teachings of the Buddha, because they're assembled in 45 volumes of books that are about this thick. It's called the Pali Canon. That's the original source teachings and the largest, most complete collection we have of the teachings of the Buddha. And this book consolidates this, or this book series consolidates it into these 13 books. But you could always go back to the original and be able to see where this came from through this reference. Then after that, you've got some words from me, a dedicated practitioner, a dedicated teacher who's helping you to understand how to integrate this into your day-to-day life. The Buddha speaks very clear, very concise, and very precise, but oftentimes his teachings, if you're looking at a particular chapter, is related to another teaching somewhere else. So if you just kind of jump in and you're looking at this particular teaching, you might not necessarily have all the other surrounding teachings that you need to be able to fully understand this. So that's why having a dedicated practitioner and teacher guide you through understanding the path to enlightenment is so crucial. You wouldn't be able to get to enlightenment by yourself without the help of teachers or guides. A Buddha can do that, but that's a very rare individual in the world. Everybody else is going to need teachers and guides to be able to help them. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to walk you through this and help you to understand what it is that the Buddha is teaching you, because it's oftentimes based on other teachings that you may or may not have learned yet. So here he's talking about these 6 aspects of the natural law of Kamma that an individual would need to understand in order to make their way to enlightenment. And there's other aspects of the natural law of Kamma that you would need to know as well, but these are 6 important ones that he's sharing with you. The first one is, he says, it is volition, choices and decisions that I call Kamma. So basically, when you have intentional decisions, that's what's going to produce Kamma for you. So if you're walking down the street and you're stomping your feet and trying to step on a bunch of cockroaches and ants and kill other beings, there's a certain amount of craving and anger and what we call ignorance or unknowing of true reality that's involved in this. Somebody actively killing and putting intention behind this. And now that's going to produce unwholesome results for you in your day-to-day life, because you're not going to be able to relate to other beings in a harmonious way because there's a certain amount of anger and hostility in the mind. But if you were walking down the street and you were talking with your friend and a cockroach runs out of the corner and goes under your foot and you accidentally step on this being and it gets killed, you didn't do that intentionally. There wasn't anger or hatred behind that. Instead, this was an unintentional action. And because of that, there isn't going to be any unwholesome results because your mind isn't functioning through that craving, anger, and ignorance, or the unknowing of true reality. So the Buddha is teaching you here that when somebody acts by body, speech, or mind, that is what produces the Kamma, either wholesome or unwholesome. When you make certain decisions, your choices and decisions are going to lead to the creation of Kamma, either wholesome Kamma or unwholesome Kamma. The way you create wholesome Kamma is by making harmless decisions. When you make harmless decisions where you're not harming other beings, this is going to produce wholesome Kamma. And when you're making harmful decisions, this is going to produce unwholesome Kamma. The way that you make harmless decisions is when you make decisions through the mental qualities of generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom. What generosity is it's the giving and sharing of more than is strictly required in any given situation without any expectation of anything in return, such as your time, your effort, your energy, and your resources. When you're practicing generosity with beings around you, it's going to produce wholesome Kamma. Loving kindness is another wholesome quality that will produce wholesome Kamma. Loving kindness is a genuine interest in seeing all beings be well. When you're making decisions through that mental quality, it's going to produce wholesome results for you. And then there's wisdom. When you make your decisions through wisdom of the natural laws, that is also going to produce wholesome Kamma or wholesome results for you. When you're making decisions through the unwholesome routes, which are harmful decisions, this is going to produce unwholesome results or unwholesome Kamma. The harmful decisions that you could make through the unwholesome routes are making decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance. What craving is where the mind has longing, yearning. It's chasing after the objects of its affection. It's wanting things to be self-satisfying. So the mind longs and yearns. It has this unquenchable thirst where the mind thinks that the next new shiny object waiting around the corner is going to provide some kind of lasting satisfaction. So the mind chases and chases and chases and chases. And now the mind chasing after things, you're making decisions through your own selfish desires, and this is going to produce unwholesome results for you, or unwholesome Kamma. And then when you make decisions through anger, hatred, or ill will, or any of those lesser versions like frustration, agitation, annoyance, things like this, then you can see that it produces unwholesome results or unwholesome Kamma for you. And then when you make decisions through ignorance or the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, confusion, misunderstanding, this produces unwholesome results for you. So you can look at your own life and you can see this for yourself, that whenever you've made decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's produced unwholesome results. But when you make decisions through generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, it produces wholesome results. But this is coming from your decisions. Your decisions is what produces Kamma, or the natural law of Kamma is functioning at all times. It's unbiased, and you will experience the results of any decisions that you make. So the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that it's your decisions that is producing Kamma. Then he talks about the creation of Kamma. The creation of Kamma is through contact. When you have contact with other beings, that's what's producing Kamma. If you don't have contact, then there's no Kamma created. So when you come in contact with like your mom or your dad or your brother, or your sisters, or even just people like at a hotel, when you check in at the front desk, you're creating Kamma when you have this contact. Having contact, you're now making decisions, and now you're going to produce Kamma. The Buddha talks about the diversity of Kamma. The diversity of Kamma is that you can experience Kamma in all 5 realms. As I mentioned, the teachings of the Buddha aren't based in belief. You're not believing a bunch of things and then hoping something happens when you die. You're cultivating wisdom through learning, investigating, and examining teachings, through reflecting on those to independently verify them, and then practicing them, integrating them into your day-to-day life. Even something like the 5 realms of existence can be independently verified. This cycle of rebirth that the Buddha talks about, this can be independently verified. You might not have the wisdom of how to do that right now, but if you continue to learn and grow and develop, you'll be able to gain that wisdom of understanding how to independently verify these things. But here in volume 6, the Buddha is helping you to understand that this Kamma that you experience, it's going to be experienced in hell, the animal realm, the afflicted spirit realm, the human realm, and the heavenly realm. These are the 5 individual realms of existence, and these are not permanent. Oftentimes people are taught that these are permanent existences, but beings are moving in and out of these realms all the time. You can see everything around you is constantly changing. The universal truth of impermanence, this is one of the natural laws, that you can see things are constantly changing. You don't have anything in your life that's permanent. This physical body is impermanent. Your relationships are impermanent. Your job and occupation is impermanent. Your bank account is impermanent. The weather is impermanent. All these things around you are constantly changing. This is a fundamental teaching that you need to know in order to get on the path to enlightenment, because the unenlightened mind craves permanence. It wants things to be permanent. Whereas if you get what you want, you get happy or excited, because the mind is having a craving, desire, and expectation. And if you get what you want, you get happy or excited. And when you don't get what you want, you get angry or frustrated or agitated or some other painful feeling. This is because the mind is craving permanence. So if you think back to the relationship with that boyfriend or girlfriend, when you guys first got together, it was so wonderful. You were having all these pleasant feelings because you were getting what you wanted, which was affection from this person or something else. Maybe you guys were going to the movies or having great conversations. Maybe you're having sexual contact. Maybe you're going to the park and having a great walk through the park. Whatever it was, you were getting what you wanted. So you got all these pleasant feelings. But then over time, as your expectations grew and you wanted more and more from this person, you weren't getting what you wanted all the time. And they weren't getting what they wanted. They had certain expectations of things that they wanted from you. And now you guys both were starting to get angry and frustrated. And eventually you guys broke up. And then when you broke up, you might have felt lonely or bored, or you might have missed this person, or you might have been angry or frustrated. This is because the mind's holding on and craving permanence, wanting things to be a certain way permanently. The mind, with its lack of wisdom, wants this permanence, not realizing that it lives in an impermanent world. So these natural laws in this particular aspect that the Buddha is teaching with the 5 realms, oftentimes people are taught that these things are permanent, but you can see in the world around you the natural laws, the universal truth of impermanence. You can see that everything is impermanent, but the mind wants things to be a certain way, and it wants them to be permanent. It's not the love that's causing you to be angry and frustrated in your relationships. It's not because you care about this person. It's because you're wanting them to be a certain way. You're expecting them to do things the same way as you. And not everybody's going to do the same way as you. Because of impermanence, people are going to make different decisions than you. And that's okay. But as long as your mind is craving permanence, you'll get angry and frustrated and agitated when people don't do things your way. So here, the Buddha is explaining that the experiences that you have when you're making decisions, you're going to experience those in any of these 5 realms. You can't run and hide from this natural law. You're going to experience the results of that either in this life, the next life, or some subsequent occasion. That's meaning that you can't run and hide from this natural law. Whatever decisions you make, you will experience the results of it. Then the 5th one here, he talks about the creation of Kamma in number 2, and then in the 5th one, he's talking about the elimination of the creation of Kamma. That when you eliminate contact, there is elimination of the creation of Kamma. And how you can use something like this is that if you come together, say with your mom or dad, and mom and dad start to be bitter and harsh and hostile and argumentative, well, if you stay in that conversation, you're creating Kamma. But if you step away, rather than be angry and bitter and harsh right back, if you step away from the conversation, now you've eliminated contact, so you won't create any Kamma in that situation. But when your brothers and sisters and your coworkers and your friends, if they're arguing and being bitter and harsh and hostile, if you stand there and argue and be bitter and harsh and hostile right back, it's just like fireworks are going off. It's like mom and dad pick up the rubber ball of anger and throw it around the room, and you pick up the rubber ball of anger and you throw it around the room, and then they throw it around the room and you throw it around the room, and next thing you know, you got all these rubber balls bouncing around the room of all this anger. But you can eliminate this by stepping away from the conversation, and they might actually get more angry when you step away, but you're not causing that anger. It's their mind craving permanence and wanting something from you, and you're not going to solve their anger for them. They have to solve their anger. You can't eliminate somebody else's anger, but you can step away and choose to protect your own contentedness and protect your own peacefulness. There's no reason to sit there and argue and be frustrated with somebody, because you're not going to eliminate anger with more anger. It's just not possible. So what the Buddha is helping you to be able to see here is that you can eliminate the creation of Kamma by eliminating contact. And this is very helpful, because all you need to do is step away from that conversation, go off, let your mind calm down, let other people's minds calm down, come back a few hours or a few days later, and then you can have a better conversation. As long as you're functioning through that craving, anger, and ignorance, you'll continue to damage relationships, being unskillful. And now whatever you put out, it's going to come back to you. If you put out anger, bitterness, and hostility, this is what's going to come back to you. But you can transform this. You can choose to no longer do that. Sometimes in our relationships, what we like to do is we like to think that the other person should change. You might really want mom and dad to change. You might really want your brothers and sisters to change. Well, you can sit around doing that for the rest of your life, and your life isn't going to improve. In order for you to improve your life, you need to decide to change for yourself. When you start making changes in your life, then what you'll see is that people around you will start changing. But as long as you're holding on to what you maybe currently think you know about the world, and oftentimes there's the ego in the mind, this arrogance and this pride, putting yourself above other people, and the mind thinks I am right and everyone else is wrong, then you're not going to be able to do the work that you need on the development of the mind to be able to make improvements and wise decisions to train your own mind and experience improved results. So if we sit back and we want everyone else in our life to change, and we're not willing to do the change, then you're not going to experience change in your life and improvement in your life. But if you decide to train your own mind and now do that work to improve your own mind, you can experience improvement and change. And one of the things you're going to need to do is train your mind to get it disciplined so that you can control the mind, so that in these situations where someone's being bitter and harsh and hostile, that you're not standing there arguing and being bitter and harsh and hostile back, because it's not going to help you. But if you can step away and you can eliminate contact, more and more these people realize, whenever I'm angry and bitter and harsh with her or with him, they won't talk to me. They keep walking away. So more and more mom and dad and brothers and sisters realize if they would like to talk to you, they're going to need to be calm, because you don't talk to people when they're not calm. And this slowly but surely is going to help you to transform, and it's going to help you to transform your life. But if every time mom and dad and brothers and sisters are bitter, harsh, and hostile, you're right in there with your sleeves rolled up and arguing and fighting and yelling and hollering, they're just going to keep doing that stuff. But if you can start getting this discipline of the mind and stepping away, more and more people around you are going to learn you don't talk when people are agitated and frustrated and hostile and bitter. And now they're going to train their mind more and more to be calm, because they know if they're bitter and harsh and hostile, you're going to step away. Right? So this is how you can use a teaching like this wisdom of the natural law of Kamma, to understand how to eliminate your unwholesome Kamma by eliminating contact. Then here the Buddha is explaining to you the way to eliminate all unwholesome Kamma is the Eightfold Path. This is a core central teaching of the Buddha. This is called the Eightfold Path. Right view through right concentration. When you learn and practice this, he's going to teach you how to make wise decisions based on the natural law of Kamma in order to completely transform your mind and completely transform your life. As you train your mind with this Eightfold Path, that is the path to enlightenment. That's what's going to lead to the improvement to the condition of the mind in your life. And I teach this at different times in all of our programs and all of our courses and retreats. You can learn this through a live class, or I've recorded it many times on our YouTube channel, our podcast. It's in our book and our audiobooks and everything like that. This is a core central teaching that you would need to know inside and out, backwards and forwards. I would encourage people to memorize this. If you're actively on the path to enlightenment, is not to just memorize the steps, but memorize the practice behind it. And this is what I teach, is I use the original words of the Buddha in order to be able to help you understand what this path is. And then you learn it, investigate it, and examine it. You reflect on it to independently verify it, and then you practice it. And as you're integrating this into your day-to-day life, this is where you'll see the elimination of the pollutions of your mind, and you'll see more and more peace and more joy in your mind and in your life and in all your relationships. So then the Buddha continues on here. He says that when monks, a noble disciple thus understands Kamma, the creation of Kamma, the diversity of Kamma, the result of Kamma, the elimination of Kamma, and the way leading to the elimination of Kamma, he understands this penetrative spiritual life to be the elimination of unwholesome Kamma. What you're doing on this path is you're eliminating all your unwholesome Kamma. Because if you got on the path to enlightenment today, you're still going to experience unwholesome Kamma, because you've made unwise decisions in the past, and you can't escape that. You can't run and hide from that. It's kind of like we've been putting mud in our garden hose throughout our life, making unwise decisions. And now if you decide you're going to hook that garden hose up to the faucet and start putting clean water into this garden hose, great. If you come to the temple once a month, once a year, you've got a little drip going through this garden hose. Maybe you're meditating once a week or once a month. You got a little drip going through this garden hose. You're not going to clear this garden hose out in this life. But if you come to the temple regularly, you're meditating regularly, you're reading books regularly, you're getting help and guidance on the path, it's like opening up that faucet and getting lots of clean water to go through this garden hose. And as you're doing this, it's going to spit mud for a while because you put mud into the garden hose. That's what we did throughout our life. We made unwise decisions and we put mud into this garden hose. So it's going to spit some mud for a while. But every once in a while, you're going to see some clean water come through that hose. And then you're going to get some more mud. And then you're going to see some clean water. And then it's going to spit some more mud. But eventually, if you get enough clean water, wise decisions going through this garden hose, eventually it's going to be all clean water coming out. And that's what you're doing on this path, is you're extinguishing all your unwholesome Kamma. You're extinguishing all your unwise decisions by learning how to make wiser and wiser and wiser decisions with the natural law of Kamma. Because if you've been arguing and bitter and harsh and hostile with the people around you, just because you've decided to maybe improve your life, and maybe for a week or two you're trying to be peaceful and joyful, those people are still going to be bitter and harsh and hostile with you, because that's what you've done in the past. You're going to need to extinguish that through 6 months, a year, 2 years, 3 years of making wiser and wiser decisions where you're not being bitter and harsh and hostile in your relationships. And when you put more and more clean water into your life and into your relationships, you'll see that these things will clear out, that you'll get to the point where you're only being loving and kind in your relationships, and more the people around you will be able to do that as well. So there's certain relationships that you have right now that you might decide that you need to let go of. You need to move away from. Maybe there's a lot of bitterness and harshness and hostility in those relationships, and you're not really committed to those relationships, and it would be better for you to just walk away, and you got to let go. Maybe your mind's holding on right now and you don't want to let go, but maybe you need to just let go of those relationships and move on. There's going to be some of those. But then there's other relationships that you're maybe more committed to, that you would like to kind of step away and work on your own mind. And then you can come back into the relationship and you can actually improve this situation, maybe with your parents or your siblings or a life partner or children or people like that. But then there's a third category of relationships that after you train your mind with this Eightfold Path, these are brand new people that you haven't even met yet. You don't even know their names. But by the time you train your mind and you fully transform your mind, you're only ever going to be loving and kind and warm and gentle, respectful in these relationships. And as you do so, then that's the only thing that's going to be coming back to you in those relationships because of the natural law of Kamma. If you're loving and kind and warm and gentle and you're learning about the teachings of the Buddha, you will be able to see more and more that this is what's coming back to you as you're practicing in this way. So these are the three kind of relationships and the way that you're extinguishing your unwholesome Kamma, because you've made unwise decisions in the past, and you can't just snap your fingers and instantly transform your mind or transform your life, but slowly but surely, as you choose to train your mind, you can extinguish all this unwholesome Kamma through making wiser and wiser decisions. That's putting more and more water into this garden hose and cleaning it out. And it's going to take some time to clean that out, but slowly but surely you can accomplish that. And you can get to the point where all your relationships are harmonious. You don't have to have bitterness and hostility in your life. But right now, with these pollutions in the mind, you will find it challenging to have harmonious relationships. You might find that your relationships keep having broken relationships over and over and over and over again. And it doesn't feel good for you to experience that. But you can get to the point where you don't have that going on in your life, but you need to cultivate the wisdom of these natural laws to be able to accomplish that. So I'm going to stop here and see what questions you guys might have. Remember, if you guys would like to ask questions here, you can use the microphones. If you would like to ask questions online, you can put that into Facebook, YouTube, or Zoom, or you can raise your hand in Zoom and ask any questions that you like. So you guys have any questions you'd like to ask? Okay, I'm going to check online here. Don't see any questions online either. Okay, so now we'll move to the next one, which is chapter 2. Someone like to read this? Pat, you like to read it? Sure, go ahead. You have a mic? Oh, you already have one.
3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Monks, there are these 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. What 3? Craving, desire, greed, attachment is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Anger, hatred, or ill will is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Ignorance, delusion, unknowing of true reality is a cause for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. Suppose, monks, seeds that are intact and unspoiled, not damaged by the wind and the sun's heat, fertile, well-preserved, were deposited in a well-prepared ground in a good field and received proper rainfall. In this way, those seeds would grow, increase, and mature. So too, any unwholesome Kamma, monks, created through craving, born of craving, caused by craving, originated by craving, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its results, either in this very life or in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. So too, any unwholesome Kamma created through anger, born of anger, caused by anger, originated by anger, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its results, either in this very life or in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. So too, any unwholesome Kamma created through ignorance, born of ignorance, caused by ignorance, originated by ignorance, ripens wherever the individual is reborn. Wherever that unwholesome Kamma ripens, it is there that one experiences its result, either in this very life or in the next rebirth, or on some subsequent occasion. These are the 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma.
Okay, thank you, Pat. So this is what I was just talking about earlier. I was explaining how all unwholesome Kamma is created by craving, anger, and ignorance. This is referred to as the 3 poisons, or the 3 unwholesome roots, or the 3 fires. I'm going to be discussing this tomorrow in our group learning program. That's the topic. It's chapter 8 of volume 1, where you're learning how to transform the mind away from this craving, anger, and ignorance. This is how we refer to these pollutions at a high level in the mind. The Buddha discovered 10 individual pollutions in the mind. He referred to them as fetters. The word fetter comes from, during his time frame, if you were a criminal and they were trying to keep you confined in a certain area, they would put a fetter around your ankle in order to keep you confined to a certain area. This was a shackle and a chain and a ball. Nowadays, we put prisoners in jail cells or prison cells, where during ancient times, they would put a shackle and a chain and a ball around your ankle in order to keep you trapped and confined to a certain area. So these fetters, these 10 individual pollutions, can be uprooted and eliminated from the mind. And when we talk about them from a high level, we refer to them as craving, anger, and ignorance. So here the Buddha is explaining how this is what's creating the unwholesome results. Because when you make decisions through craving, anger, and ignorance, it's going to produce unwholesome results. So that craving is those selfish desires, the longing, the yearning. The anger is the bitterness, the harshness, the hostility, and then there's the ignorance or the unknowing of true reality. And this is where you can see the truth for yourself. Just take one of those, like anger. Whenever you've made decisions through anger and hostility and bitterness, it's produced unwholesome results for you. You've ended relationships through your anger and hostility. Maybe you've lost jobs due to your anger and hostility. You've had certain difficulties in life because of this anger. Whenever you have allowed that to come out, then it's produced unwholesome results in your life. So more and more, as you transform your mind, you can get to the point where you're not functioning through this craving, anger, and ignorance. These are the unwholesome roots, because as long as you do that, it's going to keep producing unwholesome results for you. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter? Okay, I'm not seeing any questions anywhere. So let's go to the next one, chapter 3. Is there someone who would like to read this? Drew? Sure, go ahead.
The origination of unwholesome and wholesome Kamma, another discourse. Monks, there are 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. What 3? Craving, desire, greed, attachment arises with reference to things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. Craving, desire, greed, attachment arises with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. Craving, desire, greed, attachment arises with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. And how, monks, does craving arise with reference to things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire? One thinks about and mentally examines things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. As one does so, craving arises. When craving springs up, one is fettered by those things. The mental obsession is what I call the fetter. It is in this way that craving arises with reference to things that are in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. And how does craving arise with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire? One thinks about and mentally examines things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. As one does so, craving arises. When craving springs up, one is feathered by those things. The mental obsession is what I call the feather. It is in this way that craving arises with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. And how does craving arise with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire? One thinks about and mentally examines things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. As one does so, craving arises. When craving springs up, one is fettered by those things. The mental obsession is what I call the fetter. It is in this way that craving arises with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. These are the 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. There are, monks, these 3 causes for the origination of unwholesome Kamma. What 3? Craving, desire, greed, and attachment does not arise with reference to things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. Craving, desire, greed, attachment does not arise with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. Craving, desire, greed, attachment does not arise with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. And how, monks, does craving not arise with reference to things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire? One understands the future result of things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. Having understood the future result, one avoids it. Having avoided it, one becomes free from strong feelings in the mind, and having pierced through with wisdom, one sees. It is in this way that craving does not arise with reference to things in the past that are the basis for craving and desire. And how, monks, does craving not arise with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire? One understands the future result of things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. Having understood the future result, one avoids it. Having avoided it, one becomes free from strong feelings in the mind, and having pierced through with wisdom, one sees. It is in this way that craving does not arise with reference to things in the future that are the basis for craving and desire. And how, monks, does craving not arise with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire? One understands the future result of things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. Having understood the future result, one avoids it. Having avoided it, one becomes free from strong feelings in the mind, and having pierced through with wisdom, one sees. It is in this way that craving does not arise with reference to things presently existing that are the basis for craving and desire. These are the three causes for the origination of wholesome Kamma.
Okay, thank you, Drew. So here, this is somewhat similar to what we were just studying about wholesome and unwholesome Kamma, where the Buddha is saying it's craving, anger, and ignorance that is going to produce unwholesome Kamma. But now he's referencing it to things in the past, in the future, and then presently. I'll give you an example of this. Let's just say in the past you were really rich or really wealthy and you had certain material possessions that were available to you. But now in the present moment, say you don't have those same type of resources and those same material possessions. And now if you have craving, desire, attachment, meaning your mind is longing, yearning for those things in the past, in the present moment, you're going to be experiencing anger and frustration and agitation and annoyance because your mind is craving those things in the past and wanting things. And now maybe in the present moment, maybe you're trying to pursue your career, maybe you're aggressively pursuing it, you're having all these cravings to get back to that same level of money that you had before. Maybe you're doing like cutthroat things in order to stomp on people and go through this corporate environment and this corporate ladder, and now you're making all kinds of unwholesome Kamma by treating people in unwise ways. And this is because of the craving for things in the past, that in the present moment you're making unwise decisions in order to try to get that same level of material wealth from the past. And what the Buddha is teaching you here is that when your mind is longing, yearning for things of the past, things of the future, or things in the present moment, you can make unwise decisions that's going to produce unwholesome results. Let me give you an example of something for the future. Let's just say that you're at home and you have this amazing trip to Thailand planned, and it's like 3 or 6 months from now, and you're really excited to go to Thailand, and you just can't wait to get there. You're craving and longing, yearning for this experience to go to Thailand. But now you show up to the airport, and your flight's delayed by 3 hours. And now when you talk to the ticket agents at the airport, you're being bitter and harsh and hostile and angry, because now at the airport, you're thinking that anger that is arising is being caused by the airline, when in reality, your anger is being caused by your own craving, your own desire, your longing, yearning, you're wanting something to be permanent, when in reality, these planes are impermanent. They're going to sometimes fly on schedule, and they're sometimes not, because they have maintenance issues, they have crew issues, they have weather issues to deal with. These flights, while they aspire to be on time, you're going to run across a flight that's going to be delayed or canceled. And if your mind has craving, desire, attachment to go to Thailand, for example, now in that situation where your mind is longing, yearning for something in the future, in the present moment, you're interacting unskillfully with this ticket agent at the airport, and now you're producing unwholesome Kamma based on decisions that you're making in this relationship of 5 minutes that you're now talking with this ticket agent. You're maybe being bitter and harsh and hostile in this situation. And this is how you're creating unwholesome Kamma in that situation where the mind is craving. So when there's craving, desire, there's this longing, yearning, and wanting things to be permanent. When the mind gets what it wants, it gets happy. And when it doesn't get what it wants, it gets angry or frustrated. And when that anger and frustration is arising, you start being unskillful through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. You could push people away. This is called aversion. Maybe you've pushed people out of your life. You've pushed people out of the relationship, or maybe you pushed a situation away. Maybe you push your family members or your friends away, thinking that that's going to solve the problem. But when you push people away out of your life, it doesn't solve the problem, because you can see that you still get angry, you still get frustrated, you still get irritated. Or the second thing you might do when your craving is in your mind and this anger and hostility is arising, you might be bitter and harsh and hostile towards people through your intentions, your speech, and your actions. And now you're damaging relationships in that situation. Or you might be putting your expectations on people and trying to control them or force them to do things your particular way. And now, as this is occurring, you're going to be experiencing over and over and over again difficulties and struggles, because when you push people away, that doesn't solve your anger. When you're bitter, harsh, and hostile to people, that doesn't solve your problem. Or when you put your expectations on people and try to control them to do things a certain way, that's not going to solve your problem either, because you can't control 8 billion people to do things your way. So as long as the mind's having this craving, this anger, then the mind's going to keep experiencing difficulties over and over. And where this is coming from is the ignorance that we were talking about before. Now, this is a derogatory word, so I tend to not use it, but other people use it. So I'm just kind of using that to be able to help you see how what I'm sharing with you plugs into other people's teachings. A better way to think about this is the unknowing of true reality, the lack of wisdom, the misunderstanding, the confusion that the mind has. The mind's very confused in the unenlightened state. It firmly believes that other people are causing you to be angry or frustrated or annoyed. This is the lack of wisdom that the mind has. And because of that lack of wisdom, it continues to stay stuck in this continuous cycle over and over and over again. That it will crave things, it will get what it wants in some situations, in some situations it won't. And now when it gets angry and frustrated and agitated, it will become unskillful. And then there's this ignorance that is keeping all of this in place. So that's why on the path to enlightenment, you're not interested in believing anything whatsoever. You need to be able to get to wisdom in order to be able to transform your mind and transform your life. So here the Buddha is helping you to be able to see that as it relates to the past, the present, and the future, so that you can see that your mind is longing, yearning for these different things. And as your mind is doing these kinds of things right now, you don't have to feel guilty or shameful that this is what your mind's doing. This is what every unenlightened mind is experiencing. But you can train your mind to evolve beyond that. Every single being that's ever been born has been unenlightened. So you don't have to feel guilty or shameful that your mind is unenlightened. Instead, just embrace to see that, yeah, your mind is experiencing anger and annoyance and frustration and these other discontent feelings, but there's an escape for you to be able to escape from that. And that's what the teachings of the Buddha are here to help you with. So do you guys have any questions on this chapter, chapter 3? No questions? You guys are quiet today. Last week there was a big discussion. We only did chapter 1, remember? All right, let's see what we have next. Maybe this will be our last one. Oh, this is essentially the same thing that we just read. This is the exact same thing, essentially just talking about wholesome Kamma, the generation of wholesome Kamma, by practicing generosity, loving kindness, and wisdom, which is what I was teaching you guys earlier. So let's just go on to the next one. Let's study this one as our last one, chapter 5. Would someone like to read this one? Rachel? Sure, go for it.
Inconceivable matters. Monks, there are these 4 inconceivable matters that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive them would reap either madness or frustration. What for? The experiences of the Buddhas in an inconceivable matter that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive it would reap either madness or frustration. The experiences of one in the jhanas is an inconceivable matter that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive it would reap either madness or frustration. The exact result of Kamma is an inconceivable matter that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive it would reap either madness or frustration. Speculation about the world is an inconceivable matter that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive it would reap either madness or frustration. These are the four inconceivable matters that one should not try to conceive. One who tries to conceive them would reap either madness or frustration.
Okay, thank you, Rachel. So here the Buddha's sharing with you four things that it would be unwise to try to figure out, is what he's saying, and try to, penetrate into with any kind of depth. The four things that he's talking about is the experiences of a Buddha. A Buddha experiences things in the world very differently than the average human being. A Buddha is enlightened, but he's done this on his own without the help of any teachers or any guides. And what they experience in that journey is inconceivable by other people. The ultimate result of them getting to enlightenment and what it takes to get to enlightenment, a Buddha can discuss that and share that and be able to help others to be able to understand what it takes to get to enlightenment. But their exact experience of what they experienced on their way to enlightenment, it would be inconceivable by anybody else other than an actual Buddha. So what the Buddha is saying is it would be unwise to even try to conceive this, because it would lead to your madness or frustration. So it doesn't even make sense to try to understand the exact experiences of a Buddha, but instead you would like to learn the teachings of what it takes to get to enlightenment. Then he talks about that it would be inconceivable to understand the jhanas and what is experienced there. What the jhanas are, these are preliminary phases that the mind goes through on its way to enlightenment. The first, second, third, and fourth stage of enlightenment, the mind's actually enlightened when you get to the fourth stage. But there's these four preliminary phases that the mind experiences where the mind's experiencing enhanced qualities of mind. And the Buddha is saying it's inconceivable to conceive what those are. If you're not in the jhanas, you can't imagine what would be experienced in those jhanas if you're not actually experiencing it. It's kind of like if I sat here and you've never heard or understood or even tasted chocolate ice cream before. If I sat here and tried to explain to you chocolate ice cream without you having ever tasted it, you'd probably drive yourself mad and get frustrated trying to understand what chocolate ice cream is, because you've never actually experienced it. But if you just taste chocolate ice cream, then you'll know exactly what it tastes like. So what the Buddha is saying is that if you're not in the jhanas, it would be inconceivable for you to be able to understand what those are like until you're actually experiencing them. And if you tried to understand them in an extreme level of depth, then it would lead to madness or frustration. But we do describe to you what those jhanas are so that you can understand what they are, so that when your mind's getting there, you'll actually know that your mind is in the jhanas, but you're not going to fully understand it until you're actually experiencing it, just like chocolate ice cream. I could sit here and explain to you chocolate ice cream, and you'll generally kind of understand, but you're not going to really understand until you actually taste it. Then he's saying the exact result of Kamma is an inconceivable matter, that it would lead to madness or frustration if you tried to understand it. So if somebody says, well, if I kill that dog, what is going to happen to me? Or if I steal that car, what is going to happen to me? We can generally talk about general things, and we can of course, know that these things are unwise, but to know exactly what you're going to experience, it's an inconceivable matter. So the Buddha teaches you to not be obsessive about trying to figure out every single little aspect of the natural law of Kamma. Sometimes people think that it's like a 1-for-1, that if I steal this, that means somebody's going to steal from me. Or if I do this, then this is what's going to happen to me. The teachings of the Buddha in this natural law, it's not punishments and rewards. There is a cause and effect, or an action and result that we can generally look at and we can talk about, and we can see very clearly that these things lead to unwholesome results. But to understand the exact result, the Buddha is saying it's inconceivable. It would lead to either madness or frustration if you tried to conceive it, because different people are going to experience things in a different way. It's not exactly the same for everybody. Then the last one here, he's saying what is inconceivable is speculation about the world. You might think about this as conspiracy theories. If you know anybody who's deeply involved in conspiracy theories, you can see that, yeah, maybe they're getting a little bit mad or frustrated. They have madness or frustration in their mind. So if we speculate about the world, meaning that we don't have true evidence to prove a particular thing, and we just have this speculation, which we might refer to as a conspiracy theory today, then it will lead to your madness and frustration, because you don't really know what's actually true. And your mind can kind of go down in a downward spiral, kind of looking at all this stuff that's not actually true, where the mind is actually speculating about how things are or are not in the world, and it will lead to your madness or frustration. So where this comes into play for your journey to enlightenment is when you understand this, you're like, yeah, you know what? I will understand what a Buddha is, and I will understand, what's important about a Buddha. But in terms of understanding their exact experience of how they got to enlightenment, not something I need to even really know. Let me just focus on their teachings and learn how to get to enlightenment. Because if I tried to understand all the intricacy of a Buddha's life and how they got to enlightenment, it would lead to my madness or frustration. And then the same thing for the jhanas. I would like to understand about what the jhanas are, so that when you're experiencing them, you'll know that you're in the jhanas. But in terms of being obsessive and trying to figure out every single aspect of them before you're actually experiencing it, you can just know that, hey, that's not what I need to do, because it would lead to madness or frustration if I did that. And then the same thing with the natural law of Kamma. You can know, like, yeah, we need to study the natural law of Kamma. You need to understand it and practice it and be able to awaken to that wisdom. But when it comes to the exact results, you can avoid that. You don't need to dive into that, because it's going to lead to your madness or frustration. And then the same thing with speculation about the world. Wherever you see people around you doing that, or maybe you might notice your own mind doing that, you can just choose, not interested, because I know that it's going to lead to my madness or frustration. And that's where you can use a chapter like this to really help you. So you guys have any questions on this one? Okay, not seeing any questions anywhere. All right. So what I'm going to do is just end class by thanking all of you guys for coming. Thank you for being interested in learning the teachings of the Buddha. If you guys would like to learn more, we have regular classes here on Sunday, Wednesday, and Saturday. And then we have various courses and retreats all throughout the year and all throughout the month. And all of our classes and courses and retreats, they're live streamed. So as you guys are traveling around the world, if you'd like to learn more, you can join through YouTube or Facebook or Zoom. If you can't attend live, you can actually attend through watching the recordings. You can learn that way, and all these resources are available for you. So if you'd like to learn more and grow on this path in order to get to this enlightened mental state, there's help for you. You just need to decide that you're done with the anger. You're done with the sadness. You're tired of feeling frustrated and angry and irritable. And if you would like that help to be able to improve and experience more and more of the peace and joy of the enlightened mental state, there's the ability for you to get that help. So if you'd like to come for future classes, we have classes here at 9 a.m. and then we live stream those. So whatever time zone you're in, you'll just need to adjust that. And then we also teach at 9 p.m. I do this from home, from my home studio. And then whatever time zone somebody's in, they can adjust it for that. But it's the same class. It's just taught in 2 different locations to accommodate everybody in all the different time zones around the world. And then these are recorded on our YouTube channel and our Facebook group and on our podcast for people who can't attend live. And then, as I mentioned to you, the books and videos and podcasts and audiobooks, it's all available online for free. You can even get personal guidance where we meet personally, one-on-one, either in person or online, and I'll be able to help you. Because it's one thing to be able to learn in class and get help here, but it's a whole nother thing to be able to have a specific problem that you're encountering, and you need somebody to help you to be able to see more clearly of what are the best ways to solve this particular challenge. So if you'd like that help, feel free to reach out. Our website is the best place because it's a hub where everything is really focused from there. So if you go to buddhadailywisdom.com, that's where you'll find most of the things. And you can find information on our bulletin board over there and on our website. This is where you'll see everything. And volume 1 is the best place to start. So whatever you decide to do in your day, have a really wonderful and lovely rest of your day. And perhaps we'll see you guys in a future class. Be well and take care. Sawadee Kap. Sawadee Kap. Thank you again for watching. Enjoy your meditation. Look forward to seeing you online and answering any questions that you might have. Thank you so much.